Hey, everybody, and welcome to week 2 of your 6-week transformation program, right? This is amazing. Hopefully, you guys did an amazing job with fasting last week. And just to remind you, why do we start with fasting? Because throughout our 6-week program, we do things in a very specific order. So, fasting is first. And the reason why we want to start you there, no matter what the fasting range may be for you, is we want you to cut out those sugars and the vegetable oils and the processed foods. We want to try to get your body to have some time to clean itself out. We want you to stick to the cookbooks, right? We want you to choose those 12 recipes so you can start developing that discipline, start creating some new habits, starting to become familiar with some new foods that you may not be accustomed to. And we want to start now towards working to reduce the inflammation in your body. So you may have already seen a pretty significant difference between last week and this week, because if you've reduced those sugars, which causes massive amounts of inflammation, you've probably seen a lot of fluids start to leave your body. If you've also started increasing your fasting windows, you may have allowed yourself and your body to start working on that inflammation, to start bringing your body down, to start healing itself, okay? So first question is, have you downloaded the workbook yet? The workbook is here to serve you. It's your 42-day plan, and it allows you to plan all your feeding and fasting windows, your sleeping windows, managing stress. You've got your day timer in there so you can write everything down. You can track your hydrations, your fluids, all the things that you need to do in order to truly succeed at this program. So if you haven't already downloaded the black and white folder workbook, you can take it to your nearest print shop, have it printed for about $30, okay? And otherwise, you may have already purchased the hard copy, and if you have done that, fantastic. Some people really love to have that nice hard copy that's colorful. This is the book, obviously. It's not the workbook. My colored workbook is being printed as we speak now. Okay, so at the end of the workbook, you're going to see this drop and adopt program. So I put that in there so that as you go through your 42 days, you can start to learn what are the foods that are causing inflammation in your body, which means what are the foods that aren't really working so well in your body, and take those. You're going to need to replace them with other foods. So if you've learned all of a sudden that tomatoes really don't work well for you, you'll need to put those tomatoes in your drop program, and you're going to have to adopt or replace them with something new. It goes without saying that all the processed foods and the cereals, the box cereals, the cans, the bags, the boxes, all those foods that you're used to buying at the grocery store, one by one, we want to start to look to take them out and replace them with whole foods. Just remember that by and large, at the end of the day, food is fuel, right? So we love to eat for pleasure. We love socializing, and that's ingrained in us for sure. That's a chemical reaction when we can be social. It creates oxytocin. We were designed to gather and to share stories, exchange information, usually over a meal. And that is something that we've done for centuries and for thousands of years. So that feeling of gathering and eating together, that's not something I don't think we're going to change anytime soon. The question is what are we eating? Okay, that's something that we do have a little bit more control over. And at this point in the game, you're going to want to decide your percentage, for lack of a better word. Are you going to be 100% spot on, 100% all the time? Are you going to play this 80-20 rule, where Monday to Friday you're strict and you're by the books, but on the weekends you step outside the lines a little bit? It's difficult, to say the least, to be 100% spot on all the time. We go to events, we go out for suppers, we go and enjoy different activities, and every now and again it's going to creep up on us that we want to have that beaver tail or whatever the case may be, and we're going to splurge a little bit. But what's important about this program and why I'm very passionate about it is that at least with the education of this program, it makes you cognizant of what these foods are doing to your body. And you can start making very smart decisions as to whether or not it's a good idea to put this food or that food into your body. You may have come to learn that dairy just does not work well for you, and therefore you know to take it completely off of your list. And that if you decide to have ice cream with your kids on a Sunday afternoon on the summertime, you know what's coming, right? Might be diarrhea, might be constipation, might be bloatingness, might be gas, might be rosacea or a reaction to your skin. But then you know it's coming, right? You've made the decision, you accept the consequence. So that is something you'll want to consider. I'm striving to become 100%. I don't really want to put these foods back in my body anymore, but what my mind and my gut say to each other is not always 100% in line, right? Sometimes that feeling, that comfort food, that feeling like I want to party or enjoy something is going to take over sometimes, but it's a fight. It's a fight every single day. Sometimes you're going to win 100% and sometimes you're not, right? So give it your best intentions every single day. That's the main thing that I love to express. Is just try your best every single day to make your health as non-negotiable as you possibly can, and try to do things that are a little bit more intentional. For example, if you know that you've got an event coming up on Sunday afternoon and it's Monday, well, then you know for all of this next week, you really want to try hard to be spot on, because you know the event is coming up on Sunday. You know it's your daughter's wedding and you're going to want to splurge a little. You're going to want to have that cake or whatever. It's a very special event and you're going to want to go outside the box. So knowing that and planning that in mind is just going to help you to stay more committed to making your health non-negotiable for the rest of your life. So let's start with this week's topic, inflammation, okay? This is probably one of the biggest problems that people have when they're suffering from being bloated, joint pain, muscle pain, brain fog, lethargy. It's usually a huge cause of it is because of inflammation. So we're going to dive deep in today as to what inflammation is, what causes it, what are the foods that trigger it, what are the foods we can take to bring it down and to calm it down? So what are some of the action items that we can do to help manage inflammation? So first, you know that you've got, well, maybe you don't know, you've got two forms of inflammation. The first is like an acute inflammation, which means it's there for a very short period of time. For example, you may cut yourself on whatever, on a board outside. You cut yourself and then it gets red, right? It gets red, it gets swollen, it gets pussy, it gets watery, and that is inflammation. That's your body's immune system. Your body's healing protection is coming right to your defense to take care of that boo-boo, right? Then you have like more chronic inflammation. And this is more happening on the inside of your body, and it's usually a direct cause of any of the following. So for example, foods are a major cause of inflammation. So you could be looking at foods like dairy, wheat, corn, soy, vegetable oils, certain nightshades. There are certain fruits and vegetables that can cause you inflammation, and that might differ from one person to another. So the only way that you're going to figure that out is through self-exploration. There is no nutritionist in the world that can look at you and forecast that you can't eat tomatoes, right? That is going to be something that you need to figure out for yourself. Some people it's broccoli, some people it's cantaloupe. I mean, there's always something that might cause your body inflammation and not somebody else's. So understanding that when you go onto YouTube, Pinterest, to a nutritionist, to a natural path, if they prescribe to you a list of what your meal plan should be when going to Weight Watchers, for example, it's a generic plan and it's a eat less, move more kind of concept. And what old systems and old science and old school technology is lying to us about is the fact that it's not that simple. There's a phenomenal amount of foods that causes your body inflammation and not somebody else's. And there's nobody else that can tell you that. Now, you can take food tests and food sensitivity tests. You can take your DNA test. All of these things are possible, but they're also super expensive, okay? And some of those tests are more spot on than other ones. So I usually just like to recommend putting yourself through U University. As you go through U University, you become the scientist of your own body. And that's why we stress so much about only having these 12 recipes during the 42 days. Because in your next 6-week challenge, and as you begin to make your life non-negotiable, you're going to switch up those 12 recipes to try something completely different. And then all of a sudden, you might experience new symptoms. So if you took out cabbage in this 6-week challenge and you reintroduced it back in your next 6-week challenge, you're going to see, was there a difference or not, right? When you put dairy in versus taking dairy out, did you see differences in your body? And your 42-day workbook is there and has a little tracking system right there as to what are the foods that are causing you inflammation. What's causing your mood changes? If you're feeling feelings of depression, all of a sudden anxiety, that could very well just be food. It could be lack of sleep. It could be stress as well. So we need to monitor this stuff. There does need to be some work involved in order to just be the scientists of our own body, right? Scientists don't just go into the lab and pour things together into a thing and put it to the side and walk out. They take reports, they write things down, they write papers, they create these analytical whatever explanations as to what they're learning when they're becoming a scientist. Okay, so stress is definitely going to be a major cause of inflammation on the body. So if you are going through massive amounts of stress right now, even if you don't realize that you're stressed out, you're going to hear in week 5 as we talk about, or week 4 as we talk about stress, you're going to learn more about what all the little nuances in life that may cause us stress that we don't quite realize, right down to chemicals that we could be putting on our skin. You could feel like your life is completely happy, and yet every day you're smothering your body with oil of Olay, right? Or something like that. That is causing massive inflammation on your body. Chemicals, smells that you ingest, right? Gases, going outside, if you're sitting in a lot of traffic day in and day out, and you're constantly at somebody's bumper and you're breathing in the gasoline fumes, this can all cause inflammation in your body. Does it feel overwhelming? Absolutely it does. At first it feels like, oh my God, like I'm screwed, right? Like I put on makeup every day, I have toast for breakfast, I drink milk, and I drive for an hour to get to work, and I'm breathing in all these toxic fumes, and I'm crazy stressed out. Like, I'm screwed. There's no way I'm taking inflammation out of your body. Not true. Not true. We just have to deal with one problem at a time and learn how to manage it, right? So stick with us. So what causes inflammation? For sure, your workouts are going to also cause inflammation, but kind of in a good way. Because when you are tearing those muscle fibers, you're going to create a certain amount of inflammation as those muscle fibers are rebuilding themselves. And that's where often the soreness comes from. You're doing chest press or push-ups or what have you, and you're like, oh, I'm so sore, right? Well, your body is temporarily inflamed as it's repairing itself. All right, and that's a good thing. You want to watch out for pesticides on fruits and vegetables, trans fats. If you're going to restaurants, guaranteed they've got trans fats somewhere in there. So trans fats are now illegal, right? That they can't put trans fats in the food. But that doesn't mean that they're not cooking with the vegetable oils that are loaded in trans fats. So you need to be very careful as when they're, let's say, vegetable oil, some of them use peanut oil, some of them use safflower oil, they're always using some form of oil. But if it keeps getting reheated and reheated and reheated time and time again, it's creating massive amounts of toxicity that is causing major inflammation in your body. So one of the expressions that I use is don't pee in your pool. And basically what that means is when you spend this much time over the 42 days, healing and repairing your body, the last thing that you want to do is to go and completely ruin all the hard work that you've done. And that's why when people have been eating like so clean for 42 days, and then the first thing they do is run out to Rockaberries and have a big slice of pie, that's what I call peeing in your pool. Now, it's going to happen. It's going to happen from time to time. But I find that in my experience, that once you get yourself into this state and into this habit, don't see the end of the 42 days as the finish line. That's the starting line. That's where you start. You've just spent the last 42 days building and tweaking and playing with your own meal plan to fully understand the foods that work for you and the foods that don't work for you. And I find that people can sometimes have a hard time after the 42 days because they now seek life balance, right? They say, okay, I went hard and heavy for 42 days. I gave it everything I got. And now I need to find that balance. But the minute you start putting these chemically addicted foods back into your body again, you're right back where you started. You're right back where you started. And that's why it's mandatory for you to have a rock solid routine. You need to rely 100% on your rock solid routine. What is the daily rituals that you perform every single day to keep you accountable to making your health non-negotiable? That way, when there is that one little slip, or you had the wedding, or you went to the birthday party, or you had to have pasta one day, whatever, boom, tomorrow your routine is right there to save you again. But finding the life balance without any kind of a plan or any form of education as to this works for me, this doesn't work for me. Making a cognitive decision, I will cheat on Sunday, but I am right back to where I'm normally going to be, rather than entering Friday into the weekend and kind of leaving it up into the air, right? You might go to Costco, you might stop into their little whatever food court they have there. You might go over to a friend's house on Saturday night. You might eat popcorn and go out of town. That's happened to me many times. I've gone to visit a friend on a Saturday night, and you feel social and opens the wine bottles. Next thing you know, you're like mowing down the popcorn, the chips, and having way too much food during your meals, right? So you need to make sure that the majority of the time you're well structured, you have a routine. So when all of a sudden you find yourself, like just off track just a little bit for one little meal, you can recover very quickly. Okay. So let's keep moving. Some of the other types of foods that cause inflammation in your body can be GMOs, for sure. Estrogens. So a lot of our meat supply is loaded with estrogens. Well, maybe not so much in Canada. So you do want to watch the source of where the meat is coming from. If you're buying meat that comes from the United States, you need to be a lot more careful than the meat coming up from Canada. Growth hormones. Some of the key Netflix documentaries I recommend that you watch are, write this down, Frankensteer, Food Incorporated, Food Matters, and another book that I recommend that you read is Plant Paradox and Deep Nutrition. There's a couple of other ones as well that you can see on the portal in our members area. There's a whole bunch of lists there of books that I recommend that you should read at some point, podcasts that you can listen to, and so on. There's a lot of resources there for you to access. So being very mindful of the types of chemicals and toxins and foods that you put in your body that could cause inflammation. This is the chronic inflammation, and this can give you a series of health problems. You could be suffering from a lot of stomach issues, right? So you're going to learn next week about your gut and your gut health, and you know that there's the inside casing between your mouth and your bum, right? Like this whole tube that goes down your whole system, that's all like just like a garden hose. It's a tube that goes all the way down, and there isn't a whole lot that's supposed to filter in or filter out. And next week we're going to talk a lot about leaky gut and how that happens, right? How molecules go in and out of your gut and of your colon, and how that's going to cause a lot of inflammation in your body. So if you do experience leaky gut, which we'll dive more into in the next module, you're going to find that you're going to have a lot of inflammation in the stomach. This can be a huge cause for any stomach illness, IBS, colitis, Crohn's disease, most immune system issues that you might be experiencing. MS can be a big one, Hashimoto's disease. There's so many autoimmune disease where the body is attacking itself, right? That's an autoimmune disease. when your body fights itself in the wrong direction. So this is something you're going to want to pay attention to, especially if you are suffering from arthritis and joint pain, muscle pain, migraines, lethargy, skin disorders, depression, anxiety, panic attacks. The list goes on. If you have an illness or something wrong with you in your body's defense mechanism to help try and fight it is inflammation, right? So it's going to become one of those root issues to any of the problems that you might be experiencing. So that's why we teach you about fasting first, because fasting is a huge tool to help you to reduce inflammation. Once you've learned how to master fasting and you've got a greater education of the benefits of fasting, and you learn how to dramatically reduce inflammation in your body, when you start to strengthen your body and lift weights and become more cardiovascularly stronger, you're going to see the inflammation is going to go down. Your energy levels are going to be up. You're going to be feeling better. You're going to have a higher self-confidence, self-esteem. And all of those issues like migraines and rosacea or eczema, any of these things are going to slowly dissipate. And this is where your life is going to start to change. Two of the local farm sources that we have here in the Quebec, Ontario region is going to be Farm to Fork and Ferme Valence. So if you're in the Quebec or Ontario region, those are the two really good farms that we recommend for meats, beefs, chickens. They even have fish that is not farmed. So you want to buy foods, meat products. Now in Canada, there's the law against not having any antibiotics or very minimal antibiotics in our cattle and in our food supply. It's my suspicion that there's ways of getting around that, so you want to be careful. It's also the laws are increasing as far as how the animals are being raised. There's a big difference between Canada and the United States. We're not going to dive into that too much right now, but if you are in the United States, you have to be a lot more mindful. And if you are here in Canada, we have stronger laws that protect us from having meats and dairies that are not as harmful. But whether or not our food supply is contaminated, that does not disregard whether your body was designed to be able to consume dairy, for example. Not all bodies can tolerate the lactose or any of the amino acids that you may find in dairy. So there are causes to be concerned if you yourself does not do well with dairy, and that's something you're going to have to experiment with, okay? So there are foods that are high in histamines that also cause a lot of inflammation. Alcohol, for sure, is going to be one of those things that you really have to second guess. I get asked all the time, well, in my 42-day challenge, do I have to give up alcohol 100%? You have to remember a couple of things. First of all, alcohol is going to dehydrate you. It's going to cause inflammation in your body, and it is a poison. It's a poison to your liver, and it's a poison to your brain. So, you get mentally foggy because you're poisoning your brain. You're going to feel sick and lethargic the next day because your liver has got to work overtime to detoxify itself from the alcohol. Alcohol is not your friend. So no matter what the advertisements want to tell you about beer and wine and this and that, the minute you start to incorporate alcohol into the equation, you're dramatically going to decrease your metabolism from being able to function properly. So when you start to take those drinks in, your ghrelin hormones start to spike. This is the hormone that ignites your hunger, okay? And then you're going to get your leptin levels that are going to start to plummet down. These are the hormones that make you feel satiated. So the more you drink, the more you're going to want to eat, and the less control you're going to have over not eating. Of course, it stimulates your goal to want to eat carbohydrates. So you're going to be out there looking for those sugary foods, and your metabolism will have plummeted, so you're not going to be able to process or digest those sugary carbohydrate foods very well either, let alone the damage you're doing to your liver and your brain. So I'm going to have a glass of wine as much as the next guy, but you need to really decide if that's something that you want to do to your body on a regular basis. I'm leaning myself as to steering myself away from alcohol. Like you, I get to the Friday afternoon, I get to a Saturday, and that's almost all that I can think about, right? Is going out for a nice dinner and having a nice glass of wine, because our habits have created this. Our regular routines we've associated with de-stressing and having fun by eating and drinking alcohol. And it takes time and energy and effort to reverse that thinking, to eliminate those habits. I'm not perfect. I'm not there yet, but I'm working towards being there. It's somewhere where I want to be. I want to be in a place where I honor my body at all times, and I do not put toxic foods in it. It's a work in progress, but if you just throw up your hands and put your hands in the air and say, it's life, I don't care, it's going to be your choice. I choose not to say that. I don't want to put my hands up in the air. I want to try and look for the best alternative possible. Now, there are some ketogenic friendly wines that are low in sugars, and the sulfates play a mighty big role in that toxicity. So if you are going to the Mediterranean, if you're going to Europe, you're going to find a lot healthier wines that are very low in sulfates, that are very high and rich in a beautiful blend of wines that are a lot healthier choice for you, especially if they were grown in an organic winery where they did not use pesticides. Okay, so there's a lot to consider there. Some other types of foods that can cause inflammation that are high in histamines are the fermented foods. So the sauerkrauts, the vinegars, the soy sauce, the kefir, the kombuchas. We love these foods. They're good for us. They're going to help to nourish our healthy gut bacteria, but for some people, it may cause inflammation. Not everybody, only if you're more susceptible to foods that are high in histamine. So you have to check that. Cured meats like pepperoni and lunch meats and smoked meats, sausages, these some cheeses, they all can be very high in histamines. So it may cause some of you inflammation and some of you not, okay? Whew, wow, we're covering a lot here. So some of the foods that you can eat that will help to reduce inflammation are foods that are high in omega-3. Fish oils, and if you want to check the supplement video I did a couple of weeks back, fish oils can often help to reduce inflammation. Bone broth is a big one, but I wouldn't take it every single day. Cinnamon, and there's systematic enzymes that can help you break down bone broth, especially if you combine them with a bone broth. They can break down inflammation, and if you incorporate them with a bone broth, apple cider vinegar, this can enhance the effects as well. Turmeric, curcumin, frankincense, glycosamine, these are all sorts of foods that can help. If you go into the shared video section of our Facebook page here, you'll see that I have entered in an anti-inflammatory video that covers, I think, 21 different foods. I highly recommend that you watch that. Some of the other ways to reduce inflammation in the body, first of all, I told you before, stress causes major inflammation in the body. In your 42-day workbook, there is a time at the top of the right-hand side where it shows you what is the time of day that you are going to manage your stress. You need some time, whether it's in 20-minute blocks, 10-minute blocks, taking a whole hour. Is it getting a massage, relaxing in a hot tub, taking an extra long bath, going for a walk in the sunlight, spending time with your kids where you're laughing and playing and you're not thinking about the time, or you're not thinking about your phone, you're just enjoying them. What are the things that you can do to help to relieve stress and make sure that you increase your sleep? We're going to cover all this in the modules to come, but try to master your sleep will also help you to dramatically reduce inflammation. There's a variety of different spices that you can add to your salads, to your meats, infrared saunas, reflexology, hydrotherapy. You're seeing a lot on my wall these days where I'm doing a lot of cold showers, cold baths, all of which help to dramatically reduce inflammation. If you are suffering from fibromyalgia, you may find that just taking those cold showers, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, is going to also help you to reduce yourself in inflammation. It goes without saying that sugar is a big one. It's a huge one. Causes crazy amounts of inflammation in the body. So if you spend your weekend having carbohydrates, pastas, wines, desserts, breads, candy bars, you're going to wake up Monday morning crazy inflamed in your body. Okay? So of course, at the end of the day, the best thing to do to manage all of this stuff is your mindset. Okay? Getting your mindset right. As I said, you're not going to be the champion of this tomorrow. You're not going to have it all down. It's crazy overwhelming. There are so many things to think about. It is very overwhelming to think of the list of things that we need to remember to make our health non-negotiable. That's why you use your 42-day workbook. And every single day, you just manage a little bit. You just try a little bit every single day to replace one bad habit for a good one, one bad food for a good one, to drink more water, to manage your sleep, to manage your stress. And you're going to wake up one day with a rock solid plan, routine, and a foundation of education that you can rely on, right? It's going to be there for you whenever you need it. You don't have to remember a point system that in 6 months from now is going to fail you because it's not teaching you anything, right? 5 points for an apple does not teach you what an apple does for you. Understanding the sugar content in fruit, understanding the fiber and what the fiber is going to do for you, right? Let's take time now to learn how the body works. If you haven't already picked up your copy of Your Health is Non-Negotiable, you can either download the free version, it's a black and white free version in our content, or go ahead and order the book and start reading, because our entire 6-week journey is all in here as well. So even after you decide, if you decide to leave the program, keep that book handy with you, and you're going to be able to revisit this journey every 6 weeks. All right, guys, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's week 2 mastermind. As always, Wednesdays is our Q&A. So I come in live Wednesdays at lunchtime. Make sure to post in the comments what is your question so I can address them live on Wednesdays. In the meantime, have yourself an amazing day. Bye, everybody.